Good morning and welcome to Pod Up with Matthews in the Morning from the Crime Prevention Security System Studios. Large enough to serve you, small enough to care. It's a Tuesday edition, and you know what that means. That means good old buddy Martin will join the program here shortly. And in the second portion of the program, we have former Gator defensive tackle, Pastor Tony McCoy, talk about what his the battles he's had with cancer and the pastor down in the Groveland area. But first, let's go straight to the Titan MR hotline. And we're joined by good old Buddy Martin from the Buddy Martin Show. You can check him out Monday through Thursday on Facebook Live around 9 p.m. Eastern Time. Good morning, Buddy. How are you?
Good morning, Shane. I'm doing okay. Like I like to tell my friends, I'm like the hamburgers I like to grill. I'm doing medium well, and so that's what I'm doing.
All right. Well, Buddy, let's obviously we're still waiting on sports, but there were some sports over the weekend. And once again, the PGA Tours in full force. I watched a lot of golf when the weather was bad during July 4th weekend. Did Buddy get to watch any of that good golf?
I did, and I'm a DeChambeau fan. I've been saying to my wife, she's been a big golf fan, and I said DeChambeau was ready to break out. That was about 3 weeks ago. Before, I mean, of course, now he's bulked up. It looks like a fullback at LSU, or maybe a linebacker. But boy, he's got such a good touch, you know. He hits a ball out of sight, and then he's able to recover it. He's got a little John Daly in him in that regard, except instead of fat, he's got muscle.
You know, what's interesting, and I'm going to fill in all our people that don't know a whole lot about the PGA Tour. And I don't know if you know this, Buddy, but before the pandemic hit, Bryson DeChambeau was pretty much middle of the pack in driving distance. And during this pandemic, he worked out 2 or 3 times a day. He drank and ate about 4,000 calories per day, all these protein shakes. And now he's come back and he might be the longest hitter on tour. It's pretty remarkable how he's changed his game in 3 months or 4 months, whatever it's been. And he's playing a different game than everybody else on tour right now.
Yes, at one time, as Bobby Jones said about Jack Nicklaus, they asked young Jack Nicklaus, he was the long driver of his day back then. And they said, "What do you think of Jack Nicklaus?" He said, "Mr. Nicklaus plays a game with which I'm not familiar." And it's the same thing with DeChambeau. And he's powerful, but he's got a touch too. I mean, I think the guy is entertaining. I like he's got a little style. He got that little, I guess you'd call it Payne Stewart hat today. It was back in the day, it was Ben Hogan. And he's got a little, like the way he walks and carries himself. So, yeah, I think it's going to be fun to watch him grow. And he did. You're not suggesting he should be drug tested, are you?
Yeah, no doubt about it. Well, Buddy, what do you think about, let's talk a little NFL real quick. Patrick Mahomes signs the largest contract in the history of sports. Your thoughts on that?
Well, it's the world we live in, right? It's easy to get mad. It's just ridiculous. But the fact is, the guy's a phenomenal football player and a phenomenal quarterback. He's the quickest I've ever seen. Getting the ball out, knowing where he's going to go with it. He has a sense. In addition to being accurate, he has a sense about where to throw the ball. And it's where you put the ball to the receivers, the spot you put it in, the time you get, the way you throw the ball. He's done a magnificent job, and he's tough for a kid of his size. I like him. Whatever their going rate is, he deserves to get top dollar, and he certainly got it.
Yeah, it's interesting because there's always somebody that comes along and you're saying he's got a chance to be the greatest of all time. I really believe Patrick Mahomes has a chance to be the greatest quarterback of all time. He's only played 3 years in the NFL. Year 2, he loses in the AFC Championship game in overtime to Tom Brady and the Patriots. He never touches the football, which that's the silliest rule ever, in my opinion. And then in year 3, he wins the Super Bowl. But from a talent standpoint, I don't think I've ever seen anybody as talented as him. So it should be fun to watch, and it's well-deserved. Whatever they paid him, he deserves every bit of it.
Well, what do you like about him?
Buddy, I like everything about him. Obviously, he was blessed. Arm strength is something that the good Lord blesses you with. You cannot really increase your arm strength, maybe a little bit, but not much, by doing exercises and lifting and things of that nature. But that's just something you're blessed with. He was blessed with a tremendous arm. He was blessed to be a tremendous athlete in high school. I don't think people realize He was a tremendous basketball player. Obviously, he almost went and played pro baseball like his dad, but he chose football. So he's got tremendous mobility, his accuracy. He can make all the throws. He can make throws off balance look easy. He's by far the most talented quarterback I've ever seen. Now, will he be the best ever? Time will tell, but I do think he's on the path of being the best. And, they have a lot of pieces coming back to that Chiefs organization and team. We'll just have to wait and see what happens this year if we get to play football.
Yeah, and credit to Andy Reid, because I think Patrick also has an understanding of the game way ahead of his time. For a third-year quarterback, that's the kind of knowledge you don't get to your sixth and seventh year. In my opinion, you played the position, but he knows the game. He's got all the tools, and you're right about the arm strength. As an old pitcher back in my day, I have that blazing 88-mile-an-hour fastball, and I wanted to throw the ball hard, and I couldn't throw the ball hard. Then some country boy come up there and get on the mound and throw it about 92, or 94. I mean, how you get that? Like you say, there's some things you can't just get. You either got it or you don't, and he's got it.
He's definitely got it. So, buddy, I guess the Ivy League here in the next day or so, they're supposed to decide what they're going to do with their football season. And if you remember, during basketball season, the Ivy League was the first conference tournament to shut down. Which way do you think the Ivy League's leaning, and where do you sit right now with college football?
You got about 45 minutes. This goes back to me a long time ago. And it's because I've felt this since I remember in 1990 when you were just getting cranked up in Florida. I was already writing columns about college football has got to have a super conference. They got to have 5 or 6 conferences together. Big boy football is played among the big boys. That's what it's for. And the rest of them can play when the big boys aren't playing. Listen, maybe that's a great thing for the Ivy League. I think maybe we might see more of it. I think you might see, why can't I get it mixed up. It's the FBC. Is that the big one? It is, right? FBC or is football. All right, FBS is the big. FBC.
Yes. It's all confusing. I like Division One and Division Two. Let's go that way.
I know. I can figure it out then, but they need to go back to playing on at nighttime and playing in the spring and playing off. Let them have that division and let them have their own playoff system and let them have their own TV package. Let's get it skinnied up. Let's get the top 75 or 80, I say, teams. Put them in the super conference. Let them play. Get rid of the cupcake games. Expand the playoffs to 8 or 10 or 12 teams and have real football. That's what I think about it. So the Ivy League, I've seen Ivy League games. I've covered Ivy League games. Great. I like what they do. There's a place for it, but not during the season when there's big boy football. And I think the Power 5 needs to be and I think it's probably a good move for the Ivy League. And I think it will help their attendance, and I think it'll help the game.
Yeah. Refresh your vehicle and your brand with a vehicle wrap from Wrap Spot. July is your lucky month at Wrap Spot. Mention promo code Shane and receive 13% off your vehicle wrap. Buddy, we got a Facebook Live comment here brought to you by Meldon Law, where you matter most. David says, referring to Patrick Mahomes, he's a Red Raider. Remember, Cliff Kingsbury picked him over a Heisman winner, which he picked him basically over Baker Mayfield. But from a talent standpoint, there's no comparison. I'd be taking Kingsbury as well. I like your thoughts on the super conferences, buddy. Again, and you and I don't want to say we argued about it, but we kind of disagreed on one point. I do think that if you're not in the Power 5 conference or super conference, have your own division and play for your own national titles. We're talking the South Alabamas, the Troys, the Southern Misses of the world, right?
Yes.
But for those guys to be able to have programs and to survive, they need that one game against the big boy. They need that one check. You know what I'm saying? So I do like your idea. If there's just one game that the big boys can at least have that, if you want to call it a cupcake game, that's fine. But because I know there's so many, you've covered tons and thousands of high school athletes, buddy, and not all of them can go to the Alabamas, the Floridas, the LSUs of the world. Some of them have to go to the Jackson States, the Troys, the UABs of the world, the FAU, UCF. And so for them to be able to have a program, they're going to need that one paycheck. So I like your idea. I just think we need that one game where the big boys can allow the Division II or however you determine what their level of play is. They need that one paycheck. You know what I'm saying?
All right, Shane, hear me out. Okay, we're going to have this conversation again and again and again. I'm not giving in on this. Okay, this is not football welfare. Okay, there's a place for these games. As a guy who only got invited to walk on to Troy, the only school that invited me to walk on, which I should have done, by the way. I like Troy. I like those schools. I like the games. There's a place for those games, but they don't belong in prime time, and they don't belong playing in a game that you charge your. Remember, you're getting charged as a season ticket holder. You don't have to worry about that. I don't have to worry about it. I got media passes. But
well,
they're getting charged.
I pay for season tickets.
Okay, all right, well, good.
They don't give us anything.
Right.
Trust me. I wish they did.
All right. Well, you could be a media guy probably if you needed to be. But anyway, my point is this: is that the consumer is being charged the same thing for that game as he is for LSU. I mean, that's just ridiculous, and you can't pass that.
Not necessarily.
When you buy season tickets,
the games are determined. There's different prices on them.
There are?
Yes.
I didn't know that.
Yep. They are.
Okay. Well, all right. Then you know what? Play them in the spring. When instead of having a stupid spring game, it means nothing. Play them in the spring. Whatever you want to do. Have a scrimmage. Whatever. I'm not for trying to support. Look, there's not enough money for everybody, Shane. It's tight. The belts have been tightened. And I'm not saying get rid of them. I want to keep having them out there, but think how much better off they are to have their own. Instead of Power 5, you have Power 4, or whatever you want to call it. Point is that they can have a step down. They can have Division II. They can keep scholarships, all that sort of stuff. They can be on TV, the same thing. But don't try to sell it to me on Saturday afternoon on Cupcake Saturday. I don't want to see it. I want to see the big boy.
And I agree that for them to have their own little level of play, but the only way they're going to be able to do that is if they get a paycheck from the big boys to even be able to have a season. That's my only argument. There's no way those programs can survive without playing a Power 5 school. No way. And that's why if they don't play football this year, a lot of those schools ain't going to play football ever again.
Well, that's what's going to happen is, it's the same thing as people who talk about herd immunity. You know what that is on COVID, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's like when you let them die. Let the old guys like me die, get out of the way, and then they'll have their herd immunity. And that's what it is. Basically, that's let the afflicted and the old die, and then we'll have our game. The bottom line is it's survival of the fittest, but this is not a place and time to try and support all of college football. These ADs get Power 5 got problems too. There's got to be a better way. Regardless, it's about the product. I won't spend a lot of time. It's about the product. That's why the NFL is killing it. The product has been superb. And I think the product has got to get better, and you got to stop selling. You got to stop putting tap water in plastic bottles and calling it, good water. It's just regular water. So let's tell it like it is. It's not big boy football, and that's what we're paying for, and that's what we want to see.
Yeah, we got a Facebook Live comment here brought to you by Meldon Law, where you matter most. David says, I wish they would take the money out, and my answer is just split the money evenly. You want to watch everyone get real, take the financial windfall out of it. Troy would get the same money as Michigan.
Nah.
You don't like that?
No, because it's like golf. It's like Gary McCoy used to say, it's socialized golf, and they decided to do it the way they did so everybody got paid. I'm not in favor of that. I think it's a separate product. You can support it, and you can have, the television drives everything now, especially now,
right.
Especially with what we're talking about. And television is going to have a great product, and you're going to have to find a way. These leagues can survive. There's some of them are going to go away. It's going to happen. It's going to happen. I mean, look, I have a category I might use tonight on the show. Again, I try to measure things we would have done anyway, right? Drop the NFL preseason games. Drop them. We don't need those. Shane, you played them. It's nothing more than a ruse for getting money and for the owners. And you don't need it necessarily. You can either maybe one, maybe not even that. And I don't like the fact that I know they've dropped 2 preseason games. They're talking about dropping all 4. I haven't heard. But I think these are changes that need to be made anyway.
Yeah, the 4 preseason games is way too much. But, buddy, let me ask you this about college football. You don't enjoy watching those MAC games or a Troy versus Louisiana Lafayette on a Tuesday, Wednesday night? You don't enjoy that?
I'm okay. Let them play each other. I'll watch it. But don't give me Alabama and Eastern Michigan.
Well, no,
Florida and Eastern Washington.
I agree wholeheartedly with that about playing that game. But I firmly believe in my heart that if that team does not get that game against Alabama, there ain't going to be any kids playing for that team because they're not going to have a program. They need that.
Well, you know what? Give fewer scholarships.
What's that?
Give fewer scholarships. Let them give fewer scholarships. Get more walk-ons. Get them play. That's what the Ivy League does. I got to give them that, although they get scholarship money for academics there, as you know, and good for them. There's a way to do this. Look, I'll tell you what they can do. NCAA puts a cap on this recruiting money. It's ridiculous how much Georgia and Florida spend on recruiting. Ridiculous, okay? And, put some caps on it. Let's be honest about this. Use that money if you want to go do something good. I think we've gotten bloated in everything we're doing. Everybody wants to have the greatest recruiting in history, and I want to have Nick Saban having his 40 assistants as a joke. Put a cap on it. Yeah. You can't spend that kind of money. Let that money go for something else. Every business has to do that when they change. They got to find the money, and use it differently. And that's what they're challenged with right now. I'm sorry. I want to see the smaller schools survive. I want to see them play. Give me the product. I'm the guy paying for it on my television set, buying products. Give me better product. It's not good enough.
So what's going on the Buddy Martin show tonight, buddy?
Well, I want to talk about you for a second. I meant to get to it earlier. You got me going here, and I get steamed up. I was really intrigued about your interview yesterday on the show with the Helinskis. This is the kind of thing where you can use your pulpit for good to do something. And God bless the Helinskis for being willing to go out and tell the story of their son who took his own life at Washington State. And we wonder, how did it happen? Well, you can look into the story, you find out why. And the whole issue with CTE, and the whole issue with, I know you thought about it as a player. Everybody I know who's ever played the game thinks about it all the time. We don't know. We're making progress. But this is a tragic. This is a gifted, beautiful young man, apparently. I didn't know him. And there's parents that are going around, as you said yesterday, you had them on, telling the story of their son and telling the story about signs. And I think they brought up the kid from Westport, Brian Maurer. You were talking about that from Ocala, he came out and asked for help, basically, last year. This is the kind of thing that college football could do really, really well. And I wanted to tell you, you did a superb job of talking to the Helinskis, of helping get that story out there. And that's what they want. It's not an easy subject to talk about. And you got baptized as a talk show host, having an interview about a very sensitive topic. And you did a really good job, Shane.
Well, I appreciate it, buddy. Yeah, it was the most difficult quote interview I've ever done, no question about it. And they're a tremendous family, obviously, and they're trying to get the message across. Basically, just speak up if you have any problems, because, like I said on the show, there's so many big, strong male athletes that refuse to mention anything to their coaches, their academic counselors, whoever it is, that they're going through rough times, because everybody always has their issues. So they're doing wonderful things. I'm hoping that eventually, once COVID is over with, hopefully here soon, that they'll be able to get back out on the road and visit other, different schools, and hopefully we can get them down to Gainesville to visit with the Gators.
That'd be great. And I want to say, if I can, we're in the process on Gator Bait, as you know, the magazine, which we put out every week, and we got another good one coming this week. When are you going to start writing for Gator Bait, Shane?
Well, I don't know if y'all want me writing anything, buddy.
Why not? You'd be surprised. A lot of people do it. It's actually not hard. You're gifted. The bottom line is,
I've never written an article. I had a hard enough time writing papers back in the day.
Well, we're going to change all that, okay? But
Okay.
anyway, we know the issue of gator bait, the name, the term. We all know about that. Everybody's got their opinions, and we want to hear them. And there is a link you can go to. You can vote on. There's just 3 questions on this poll. Basically, have to do with the cheer, whether you agree with the decision, or and then it has to do. A question is asked. What are you offended? I think it says that. I haven't got it in front of me. It says, are you offended by the name Gatorbait of the publication, Gatorbait Media? And I want to know an honest answer. And I'd like you got that link, and maybe Taylor can put it up on the screen. I don't have it on my TV, on my screen.
Yeah, he just posted it on the Facebook
okay.
chat feed or whatever you call it. So we got it up there.
So, I'm sorry. I lost two computers Sunday, and they're not working today. So I can't see that. But anyway, if they could help us with this, we're going to go beyond just a poll. We're going to dig deep on this subject, and we're going to come up with some information, come up with some answers, and maybe some ways to help people involved in this. We're really excited about it. Thanks to Freddie Weeby for his help. And you folks can start by just casting your vote and give us your answers, and we'd be most grateful. Tonight, you're on, big boy. What are you going to talk about tonight?
What am I going to talk about tonight?
Yeah, you got to tell me what you're going to talk about. You asked me what I'm going to talk about. What are you going to talk about tonight?
Well, we can talk a little bit about my interview with the Helinskis.
Okay.
And we'll talk what my thoughts are if we're going to play college football or not.
All right, let's do that tonight on Buddy Martin Show tonight right here on Facebook Live.
That's right. Well, Buddy, appreciate you joining us. That's Buddy Martin. You can follow his show and watch it tonight. The Buddy Martin Show on Facebook Live. You can also follow Buddy on Twitter at Buddy Show. Buddy, be safe down there, my man. We'll see you tonight.
Yeah, Ben Troop on tonight along with Shane Matthews, 2 of the greats. Thank you, buddy.
All right, that's Buddy Martin. Join us on the Titan Tomorrow hotline. At Center State Bank, we put business first. We're the largest community bank in the state of Florida, and understand that small businesses need a community business partner that they can rely on. Center State has 5 convenient Alachua County locations to serve you better. Center State Bank, member FDIC. We're going to take our first time out of the program here. When we come back, we're going to be joined by Pastor Tony McCoy. Join us on the Titan Tomorrow hotline. You're watching and listening to Pot Up with Matthews in the Morning from the Crime Prevention Security System Studios. We'll be right back.
Time out! Time out! Hey! Time out! Time out! Time out! There we go. Good.
We want to take this moment to thank all our sponsors who keep the show going and pay the bills.
Let's give them something to cheer for now.
Our gridiron sponsors are Crime Prevention Security, large enough to serve you, small enough to care. Titan MRI, Gainesville's only locally owned and operated MRI facility. Area Rug Masters, your #1 choice in Gainesville for all your area rug cleaning services. Meldon Law, where you matter most. Peachland Dental, Gator Nation's first choice for dentistry in Port Charlotte. Our touchdown sponsors are Campus USA Credit Union, Celebration Point Town Center, The Digital Mortgage Guide, Adams Ribs, Gator Dominoes, Celebrate Primary Care, Center State Bank, Gator Bait Media, Davis Gainesville Chevrolet, Niapa Latin Cafe, Gators Dockside, Aikido America Martial Arts and After School, Darlene Weeby Realtor Caldwell Banker MM Parish, Radware, Style Cuts, Wrap Spot, Ironwood Golf Course, TB Financial, Chris Doring Mortgage, Meadowbrook Golf Course, Darshakow Insurance, and Pomodoro Cafe. If you are interested in promoting your business on this show, you can visit our website, potupwithshane.com, and click on the Advertise button or call Freddie at 352-284-3733. Again, thank you for all the great businesses that support the show. Please remember, if you like what we are doing here, thank our sponsors and support the businesses that support us.
He's looking, still looking. He's going for the end zone. He's got a touchdown!
Welcome back to Pot Up with Matthews in the Morning from the Crime Prevention Security System Studios. Large enough to serve you, small enough to care. I want to thank Buddy Martin for joining us. Hey, folks, at Celebration Point, it's where the Gators come to celebrate with premium brands like Bass Pro Shops, Starbucks, and Regal Cinemas. And coming soon, the HBC's new restaurant, Spurrier's Gridiron Grill, and Visor's Rooftop Bar. We will see you at Celebration Point. Now we're going to go to the Titan MR hotline. We're joined by my former teammate, big nasty defensive tackle. Boy, good morning, Tony. How are you, buddy?
What's up, Shay? Good to see you, man.
Yeah, let's man, we got a lot to talk about with you, man, because a lot of people may not know what you've gone through, what you're doing these days. But you grew up in Orlando, played at Evans High School. Did you always want to be a Gator, or was there potential that you may have gone elsewhere?
I think Florida was the first university that I visited, and when I was there, I was just captivated, man. And I was like, from their point on, I knew I was going to be a Gator. So I think I always wanted to be one. Yeah.
And you signed with Galen Hall was the head coach when you initially signed, and then this guy Steve Spurrier comes in. What would you say the biggest difference in the style of coaching between Galen Hall and Coach Spurrier?
Just expectancy, Shane. You know, when he came in, he just expected to win, and that was the big difference. Structure, order. Just say, hey guys, I'm gonna do you right. You're gonna do yourselves right. You're gonna do this university right. I remember the first meeting that he had with us when he came in. The first thing he did, just the little things. Hey, sit up in your seat. Take off your hat. And then he went through the whole list that, hey, guys, you're going to go to class. You're going to walk around and represent yourself right and your families right, this university right. And then he said, on the last thing, he said, oh, and by the way, we are going to win. So that was that whole attitude, I think, that of expectancy. You know, when you get what you expect in life. If you don't expect to win, or if you don't walk with that swagger and say, this is what we expect to do, then you end up getting the less of that. So just the way Coach Spurrier came in and just said, this is what we're going to do. This is what I expect of you, and this is what I'm going to give you because I'm your coach. That type of attitude.
Yeah, Tony, your freshman class was loaded with a lot of good players. Yourself, Brad Culpepper, Mark White, Cal Dixon, Tony Rao, Hisham, Emmett was in that class.
Yeah.
You know, but no, we didn't really win until Coach Spurrier got here. And in 1990, you know, we go undefeated in the SEC. We're not able to be crowned champs because of something that happened previously. But just talk a little bit about some of your freshman brothers that you played with.
Man, that's a lot of talent. We also had Tim Polk. We had Godfrey Miles, who's passed now. You know, Brad Culpepper, him and I on the defensive line, good friends, took care of the middle. Darren McCoy on the end, Harvey Thomas there. You know, we got those guys was just phenomenal. Jerry Odom, you know, most people don't know, he was part of our freshman class, linebacker back there, just a wealth of knowledge back there. This guy could just study the defenses and just know where the ball was going to be ran, and that really helped us out a lot. Isham Ishmael, those guys. I think, what's his name? Mark White. You remember him? All these guys, man, they were just great talent, nasty, grit guys, but good guys off the field. But when you get on the field, they wanted to show you that they couldn't be beaten. And I think that was the attitude with my entire freshman class. We walked with the swag before there was a word swag. You know, we came in just saying, hey, this is what we expect to do. I remember we came in my freshman year, and, you know, the guys were around here, and big guys, good guys. Louis Oliver, Rodney Weston, and all those guys were there. But we didn't shrink back. We wanted to learn, but we also wanted to dominate, and we expected to play. And I think that was the thing that when we came in as a class, you had a lot of winners, guys who had won on a high school level, and they came in college expecting to win. So when we lost, it hurt. And I think, again, when Coach Spurrier came back to Florida, he fed into that high school mindset that a lot of my rookie brothers had. You know, we just expected to win. And when you had a coach that expected to win, winning just happened.
No doubt about it. So we get rings for first in the SEC in 1990. We win our first official title in 91, your senior year.
Yeah.
Are there any games or any moments for you, Tony, that stand out in your Gator career?
Shane, I get hit in the head a lot. I remember all those games. but the biggest game that I do remember, looking at our schedule, man, I remember my first game, San Jose State, coming back. That was a big game for me, coming back my senior year, man. I think that just set the pace, when we whooped them up. Even if it was 59-20, something like that. But one of the biggest games, I think, to my senior year, well, maybe three, Tennessee, Georgia, and then Florida State. Tennessee, we had a Tennessee night game there. I was facing an offensive tackle that was All-American and just playing up underneath the lights in the swamp, man, and hearing the crowd. And then it was a personal battle between me and that guard. And I got to tell you, I whooped his behind. So I whooped him up real quick. And then I would say probably the Georgia game. Remember that game? It was in Georgia, unseasonably cold. We went out there, man, and we took care of Georgia there, whooped Georgia in Jacksonville. And then, of course, the rival with Florida State at home, defensive battle. You guys came through on the offense for us, and then we had to go and finish it on that last stand. That game right there against Florida State was a huge game because that was the icing on the cake for our year. They were out of shape, I think, vomiting on the field, and it was hot, and we was in the swamp. It was a defensive line game, boy. You just like, man, that's what it's all about, football, and coming down to that last rollout play with Weldon and running them down and everybody coming together winning. That was a huge part of my senior year.
Yeah, we got a text here on the Titan More text line from Daryl. He wants to know, Tony, what team did you like playing against the most?
In college?
Yeah.
I would say it's definitely a love-hate relationship would be the Georgia guys. Anybody in the SEC, man. That year, my senior year has changed. We beat Alabama, we beat Tennessee, we beat Auburn, Mississippi. Anytime that you play in the SEC, I don't think that there's a more competitive schedule than the SEC. So anybody in the SEC, man, if you can't get your fist ready to ball up and punch somebody in the mouth, something's not right with you. But any SEC team that I really love to hit. But we beat LSU that year. So.
Mm-hmm. So we played Notre Dame in the Sugar Bowl, and obviously we didn't play our best game there. But a former teammate sent me a text knowing I was going to have you on here, and he said he loves to tell the story about Tony McCoy during pregame before the Notre Dame game about turning over the Gatorade cooler or something and screaming, "I ain't scared." You want to tell that story? I didn't see this happen, or I didn't hear about it. I just got the text, and I wanted to ask you about it.
Hey, we had a lot of guys on the team, man. Like we said, we love to win, and we love to go out and set the tone. And before we get on the field, that this is what we expect. That's Coach Spurrier embodified. That's what he embodied. This is what we expect. And man, it just rolled off on a lot of us, man. And I took that as a personal challenge the whole entire year. And the year wasn't over just because we was in the Sugar Bowl. So I wanted to make sure everybody knew this is what we expect to do. And we went out there and we did well. We came a little short that game.
Yeah. At Chris Doring Mortgage, they do mortgage lending right, helping home buyers throughout Gainesville and North Central Florida. Call Chris Doring Mortgage today at 352-244-0840. So, Tony, you get drafted by the Indianapolis Colts. You play there, 8-9 years. Then you go to the Arizona Cardinals. Talk about your career, what it was like playing for the Colts. I want to say, if I'm not mistaken, your first start was against Dan Marino and the Miami Dolphins. And I believe you got a couple of sacks, if I'm not mistaken. Talk a little bit about your career with the Colts.
It's funny, Shane, because it's almost similar to my career at Florida. We came into a program that had talent but was not used to winning. And, we had to go in there with the attitude. And my class that I was drafted with, also a lot of guys that came in expecting to win. So when I came into Indianapolis, it was similar. I felt the similar spirit. Hey, I'm in a place where people are just glad to be on the team and not really expecting to win. My rookie year, we trained like all get out. And I was fortunate enough, like you said, to get that first start against, I think it was Marino in Miami. And for some reason, God has always blessed me when I played Marino to get to him a couple of times. I think one night I had got to him 2.5 times, maybe 3 times in one game. So I was glad that was my first NFL start against him. And then after that, it was just starting the rest of the year. My season.
And you ended up going to the Cardinals, and then you had an injury that kind of somewhat ended your career. Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, I think Tobin, Vince Tobin, he was defensive coordinator at the Colts and really helped me out and blessed me to really get known throughout the NFL. He became the head coach of the Cards, and he asked me to come there and teach the young men how to fight and how to practice. In practice one day, a rookie came, and we had a loop game inside the defensive line. He came and hit my right knee. And that kind of messed up my knee. It was like the 3rd or 4th time I had the surgery. So no cartilage in my right knee, and that kind of pushed me back and started me on a new journey.
And your new journey, you became a pastor. And
Yeah.
I've heard the story. Y'all started a church out of your garage, I believe, and now it's grown into this huge church down, I think, in Groveland. Talk a little bit about what it's like to be a pastor and to start a church from your garage.
Yeah, we started right here in Lake County, Groveland, Florida. Started in our house, actually, just 5 members, me, my wife, and our 3 kids. And then we just started having Bible study. And from our Bible studies, we just grew, and the people were all in our kitchen. And my wife says, "You got to get these people out of our house." So we went from our house to our garage, and then from our garage to a local school, and from our local school to a storefront. And then from the storefront, now we have 15 acres, multicultural church. Pastoring for me is a lot like playing football, except you don't get to punch somebody in the mouth. So, but it is. You get up, you're fighting all the time. You're fighting against stereotypes of minds and strongholds in people's lives. But then also, pastoring is a lot like football for me, because our church looks a lot like my team. We had white, we had black, we Isham, all kind of people, and that's what Hope International Church is all about. I look across the sanctuary, and we have all races, and we're all fighting and standing for the same cause. So that's a lot like football, and every day you get up and it's a new challenge. And I needed something after football to keep me stimulated and keep me getting up in the morning. And pastoring does that, because every day, there's never a day that's the same. And it's a new challenge, new people to help, a new battle to fight. I'm glad to be where I'm at now.
That's good stuff. Okay, so you also were diagnosed with leukemia. And tell us how that all came about. I want to say, I know you were a volunteer high school coach. You were doing that for a while, but talk a little bit about, what made you go to the doctor when you weren't feeling well, those type of things.
Well, Shay, I'm always, me, even in college, I was always just on the move, always moving, and that hadn't changed. So even when I retired and started being a pastor, I started volunteering at a local high school, South Lake High School, Eagles. And I would run with the kids. By that time, I was about maybe 290, 295. If I had a good meal, maybe 300. But I would still run with the team after practice during the wind sprints. And I started running. I ran one wind sprint, and I was completely out of breath. So I came back, took a knee, and then I got up. I tried to do another. We had like 10 of those 1,000-yard sprints. And for the first time in my life, I told my wife this. I quit something. I said, I can't do it. I can't finish it. My oldest son, TJ McCoy, who played at the University of Florida as well, he was in high school, but I asked him, I said, drive me home. So it took me maybe like 3 hours to just recover from the fatigue that I was feeling. And I thought it was just maybe I was out of shape. So I got up the next morning and just said, I'm going to just bust my tail and train, get in the weight room. And I started doing that. And it was just worse. So from that part, my wife said, you got to go to the doctor. And I went to the doctor and they took blood. Of course, they didn't give it back to me that day. That was maybe on a Wednesday. Friday, I got a call because we had a game that day, and I was still feeling fatigued, sleeping a little bit more than often, and just feeling really lethargic. So from that point, Friday night, the evening, maybe like 3 p.m., getting ready for a football game, the nurse called and said, "Hey, the doctor needs to see you on Monday." And something inside of me spoke to me like, "Man, it's bad news." You with me? And I felt like the Lord said, "Man, you have cancer, but don't worry about it. I'm going to be with you." And Monday morning, when I went to the office, my wife went with me. We walked in. And because I felt like the Lord had already spoke to me that what it was, and I didn't even think about cancer. That was the last thing. But I felt like he had forewarned me that it was something going to be really big. When he said that you had cancer, it didn't floor me. Of course, it floored my wife. And he looked at me like, you're not responding. And I said, "No, we're going to beat this. This is fine." He says, "Well, leukemia, man, it's very deadly, and it's not a very likelihood that you'll make it, without a bone marrow transplant." And so the doctor got a little bit, teary eyes, and he says, "I said, Doc, I'm going to beat this." And he said, "If you beat this, I'll come to your church." And needless to say, he had to visit.
So how long were you in the hospital?
That was for fighting leukemia. It was about a year journey. I started off right here in Orlando, Florida, and then eventually, Shane, this was powerful. And things just happen. I believe that if you keep fighting, if you're a good person and you got a heart and you don't fear, like you were saying that happened before that Notre Dame game. I used to have this saying, "I'm 6'2", 255 pounds, and I'm not scared of nothing." So, and I say it with a little bit more energy than that back in the day, but still, nevertheless, I faced it like that. And when I got transferred to the University of Florida, Shands Hospital, Dr. Wingard, man, I was my room overlooked the stadium. And then I got up one time, man. I already been doing about 6 or 7 months of chemo, staying in the hospital because I wasn't allowed to leave because my immune system was so down. I stood in the window and just looked over the stadium and said, "I'm 6'2", 255 pounds. I ain't scared of nothing." And the nurses and everybody was looking, "What's wrong with this dude?" But it's the mindset that you approach life. And Dr. Wingard, I was unable to find a bone marrow match, and yet he continued to believe that I could beat this thing. Went through about another 7 months of chemo, staying right there in Gainesville, Florida, and eventually was able to go home and had to do another year of medicine at home. And then finally, one day he told me, after about 3-4 years later, he says, "I think you beat this thing." So that was a blessing.
Yeah, that is awesome. And during all this time, your son TJ had signed with NC State, got a waiver to come back to the University of Florida and play. What did that mean for TJ to get to be a Gator?
Man, Shane, I mean, your son is there. You were there. You was an outstanding player, man. And for me, to have my son, the story behind that, he's at NC State. He finds out that I actually end up going to NC State when it's practice, and it was really cold. And then I end up getting sick. And Dr. Wingard told me, "You can't go to any of these games." And he made a decision then just to come home. He says, I want to be with my dad. So he left NC State without any scholarship offer to anyone, and stayed home. And for about 4 or 5, maybe 6 months, didn't get any offer from anyone. And then he was blessed enough to get an offer from Florida, and they needed help. And it was God. So for him being there playing, and working his tail off for practice squad into a starting position, it meant the world to me. It was like God giving me a little hope in the midst of what I was going through.
Absolutely. And then he went to Louisville for his final year. He's still trying to get with the team, correct? Free agent?
Yeah, man. He went to Louisville. He started there for center. He hurt his knee midway, just a little tear, and he wasn't able to go play in any of the games that he was invited to. Then, of course, with COVID-19, it wasn't able to have his pro day and those things. So what now is he's all rehabbed. He's ready to go. I'm glad I'm on your show. So if for some NFL coaches out there, he's ready. This dude is ready. He's got a lot of grit to him. He balled his fists up and fight. He's a team player, and he's ready for action. Got tapes. If you need me, just call me. Shane, you got my number. You give it to him. Tell him.
So, Tony, are you still helping coach high school ball?
I am. I'm still working with South Lake High School, doing some. I tell them all I think I want to do is coach defensive line. So I go in there and I just work with those guys and teach them how to rush the passer and play the run and have a team mentality and fight.
Through all this COVID-19 stuff, so with your church, have you been doing the online preaching? Are y'all back? Is the congregation back, or how are y'all doing it down there?
No, we've been really just being cautious, and we've been doing having our services by line, online. We have always had our services available for us online, for our congregation online. Our leaders of our church, they come in and we just go ahead and do our service. Everybody seemed to be staying connected and inspired and encouraged. So we've actually, Shane, seen growth during this COVID-19, more people tuning in online and actually people joining the church, the body of joining Hope International during this time. That's just really been a blessing in the midst of the challenge.
Well, let everybody know, since pretty much everybody has to watch church online these days, how they can watch Tony McCoy preach, because I'm going to tune in myself.
All right, I'm not preaching this Sunday, but next Sunday I'm gonna be preaching. But you can just go to gohopechurch.com, gohopechurch.com, and then you can just push on live stream right there, and we're there. We also have a Facebook page, Hope International Church Facebook page, and if you log on to that Facebook page, our live services come on simultaneously on our Facebook page every Sunday morning at 10 p.m. If you want to check me out this Wednesday at 7 p.m., I'll be teaching. But this Sunday, we're going to have one of our assistant pastors, Dr. Adams, preach. And he's really good. He's a psychiatrist, and he does a phenomenal job.
Peachland Dentistry, Gator Nation's #1 choice for dentistry in Port Charlotte and surrounding areas. Visit them at peachlanddental.com. Tony, so I'm sure you heard a few weeks ago, maybe it was a month ago now, I can't remember, but the president here at the University of Florida banned the chant Gator Bait. What does Tony McCoy think about that?
Wow.
And you know the reason why, right?
No, I don't. I'm off. I'm off. You're gonna have to help me out, Shane. Okay, I'm the defensive lineman.
Okay, so with all the racial issues going around in our country, I guess back in the 1800s, they were saying that white people were using black babies as gator bait to capture alligators back in the 1800s. Like I said, nobody ever even heard of this until recently. So now, you know how the band plays gator bait? Right. That will no longer be in the stadium. Now, I think fans will still do the gator bait chant, but the band will not lead it. And like I said, I've talked to several black athletes that played at Florida, and none of them knew about this. And, Lawrence Wright, who's on the national title team, that said, if you ain't a Gator, you're Gator bait, is really upset about it. I didn't mean to put you on the spot. I thought you may have heard about it.
No. You know me. I'm not on the spot. I'll always tell you how I feel about it. No, Shane, I did not know that history about Gator bait. Definitely, it's never has been in my mindset when we chant that. When we say Gator Bait, we're talking about Tennessee, we're talking about Alabama, we're talking about LSU, we're talking about our opponents. I believe that there are a lot of sayings that have probably evolved. That doesn't take away maybe the stigma that it started. But I think that we have to be careful of becoming overly offensive. But I appreciate the president's, his mindset and trying to be sensitive. I do believe that there's a point where we can try to be so overly sensitive that we bring up stuff that that the kids and the people of this generation never even thought about. And therefore that you're bringing up stuff and trying to change their meaning of what Gator Bait means. I've been a part of Florida now for, I was there for 5 years, and now, 30 some years after, I still, or more, I still chant Gator Bait in no kind of way do I think about that part. And being an African-American man, I never was offended by it. I have to research and find out if that's true. And we say that's true, that's what they meant, but we mean this. That's just my thing. Please, next thing you know, they're going to start trying to take away our chunk. You with me? So I don't think that is the right approach. I think that when you get to the point to where you're looking up, trying to find out, what can we do away with other than what is hurting people now. There's some stuff that's going on now that's hurting people. And I believe even in light of this George Foreman incident that was horrific, that was evil, that should have never been done. I believe a lot of good conversation is coming out of this and it's making us look at some things and say, okay, well, maybe we do need to do better in this area or take this down or that. But the Gator Bait chomp and saying is not one of them.
Yeah. Last thing for you, T. I have all the former players that played for Coach Spurrier tell a story because he's a different dude. You got any funny stories you could tell for us?
Woo, now you put me on the spot. That's putting me on the spot. Coach Spurrier.
Or you mean if you can't think of one, just what he meant to you.
Wow. That's better, Shane. What he meant to me. I probably got one or two best of. Now I can't tell. One of them I can't tell. But what he meant to me is a second chance. He meant that to me. He meant structure. He meant order. He allowed me the opportunity to be a part of that senior class, the first SEC championship, when most people would have said, man, forget about that guy. So he brought structure in. He gave all of us an opportunity to fight for ourselves, fight for our families, fight for the university. And he was just a man of class, And I think some people say, well, I'll go to bat for you. That's their mouth. Coach Spurrier didn't say it. He just went up there and knocked a home run for you. So he looked at everybody across the board as the same and gave everybody the opportunity to show what they could do. And I think even, how the two people that's in this frame, you and I, he looked at me, looked at you and said, listen, if you want to play, you can do this. And both of us had that opportunity. Shane, you came out, you started and showed what you could do. He gave that to me. And I'm forever grateful for Coach Spurrier. He modeled that even in his family with bringing his wife, Jerry. That's a funny story. The first time I was there, she was doing aerobics. And I was like, what is this aerobic stuff? This is nothing. Went in there, she almost killed this boy. But it's just, you saw the way that if he called you family, he meant it. And then you saw the way that him and Jerry interacted in his own family. I like the man, and no one can say a bad word to me about the man. So Coach Spurrier he's Florida, and that's it.
No doubt about it. Well, Tony, You're inspiration to all of us, my man. Everything you've gone through. We're going to be tuning into your church. And hey, man, I appreciate you joining the show today.
Thanks, Shane. Good to be with you, brother.
Absolutely. That's Tony McCoy. Hey, folks, today's show is a wrap, brought to you by Wrap Spot. Make sure you tune in tomorrow. We got Fred Taylor and Frank Frangie. Be safe out there, folks. We'll see you tomorrow. Take care. Thanks, brother. That was great.